What's up, guys? Gonna be going through our week 2 match against Josh. Actually, we just played this match, so this is as fresh as it's gonna get. We're just gonna go through some of the plays and thought processes behind some of the plays I made, some of the things he did really well that caught me off guard. Spoiler, these are some really close matches. These are really good. But starting off with game 1, he leads. Let's switch sides. He leads Dragapult. I led Deoxys Speed because my Deoxys Speed is Eject Pack with Psycho Boost, and so I thought there was a slight chance he leads Great Tusk just for like a ton of pressure, and before he has went Bulky Tusk with like rocks and stuff like that, and I just Deoxys Speed can apply a lot of pressure off the bat. Alternatively, since this was game 1, so Scarf Pult was a possibility, and there's nothing I could really do to outspeed it if that's the case. And so I figured this was going to be at the very least, an information gathering turn. And I definitely gathered information. I go for the Shadow Ball. In hindsight, probably should have just went for the Psycho Boost and swapped into something. Like potentially Azu. But I get off a good chunk of damage, and looking at my Deoxys set, it's max HP, max special attack. It can actually live a Shadow Ball or like a Draco. It cannot live a Dragon Darts, and it depends on if he's banded, spec'd, things like that. So that's why this was such an iffy turn. My safe play could have been to go into Scavalier, which probably would have been better because what happens here is he T-Waves me. So he has a support style Dragapult, and I use support loosely because this thing still hits like a truck. And so my paralyzed Deoxys Speed I could have still kept, but I think I saw it as useless at this point. So I just stay in, take the Hex and die, and now I get to swap into whatever I want, which I go into my Scarfed Walking Wake to outspeed his Dragapult. And my Wake is 168 speed, which with the Scarf is fast enough to outspeed max speed, Dragapult, and Scarfed Hydreigon, which I thought was a possibility. And then the rest in HP. So here's a tough turn because, man, his walls synergize really well. You know, shout out to Josh. He's built a really good team. I can't really just drop a Draco for a ton of damage because he's got Tink. If I try to predict Tink or Eldegoss and try to Flamethrower, Gastro eats that, as does Slowking Galar. I also can't go for the Hydro Steam because of Gastrodon. Eldegoss also takes it pretty well, as does Tink. So like this core here would cause me a lot of issues for more reasons than just being like working well together. But I think I decide to double out predicting the Eldegoss, which worked out in my favor. And so I thought this was going to be a favorable matchup because a Scavalier like Eldegoss does nothing to me. And I mean, to be fair, it is. But here is where he reveals the Stun Spore. So that is now another Monparad. A pain in the ass. I get the knockoff off because I did not think he would stay in. An X Scissor there would have done a lot. So maybe I just should have made the safe play there and X Scissor. It probably would have done 60-70%. His Eldegoss is max defense, but that's still gonna hurt. But whatever, I get rid of its eject button, which honestly, shout out to Josh. This is a very unique like Eldegoss set. I really like it though. So, continuing, he slows my speed. Not that that matters. I'm parried. And so, I thought, there is no way he is staying in again, right? I go for another knockoff. You know, balls of steel, dragging him across the ocean to the Americas to play me, and it shows. I mean, sometimes I overthink myself. I should just click X scissor there. It does okay damage to things. It does damage to things, and it does a lot to this. So sometimes I play too greedy. It happens later on. But you know, that's part of learning and trying to improve as a player. You gotta like balance out the high risk, high reward with the just take the safe play, and I'm working on that. So he lead sheeds me. I'm like, okay. Like, the swap is obvious. I go into my boy Brute. I at this point, I figured that, I'm like, okay, he's got Thunder Wave on his Dragapult, Thunder Wave on his, or Stun Spore on his Eldegoss, with Hex on Dragapult. I'm seeing the idea here. So I swap back into a Scavalier because I figured a T-Wave was coming. It was. And so he gets rocks up, and I believe, yep. I don't really know why I X-Scissored there. I don't know why I would predict Eldegoss to come in. That was definitely a misplay. I should definitely just always press high horsepower there. I think I may have been predicting Gastrodon, but like, just high horsepower. So I see that he has Rocky Helmet. And this is some uneventful turns. I drill run, which I put on just for the Tinkaton because I figured this thing was going to cause me some issues. Yep, he ice hammers, it does nothing. I get parried, which would have been another. It ends up pretty much equating to the same thing, so it is what it is. I get a free swap into the Wake. And so here I was thinking, like, I'm down 2 Mons. And Deoxys would have been great to have, but I've put a ton of damage off into like his Dragapult, which is like one of his late game sweepers, especially if they're parried. Tinkaton's pretty much out of commission. And like my like late game Mons are pretty much full HP or very healthy. And so I wasn't feeling too pressured at this point. Here I Flamethrower, predicting that he didn't want Gastro to just take a Draco, which to Draco in front of a Tinkaton would have been kind of crazy, but Tinkaton definitely doesn't want to stay in there. So I get the Flamethrower off, do a lot. Yo, shout out Cotton Down, slowing for any damage at all. That shit is crazy. So I stay in, do what I can with Flamethrower. It does 24%. I should have calced this. I assumed that he was Assault Vest, you know, the standard, but he's actually like pretty heavily infested in defense, and he's Specs, which again, a very like off meta set, but it worked very well. Like, so like stuff like this is like where I want to try to improve, is like identifying where I can catch someone off guard with something like this. And you know, credits to Josh, he did just that to me. So here, gosh, here was a tough turn. We can go back, because I basically had to decide what is catching a Sludge Bomb, because this hadn't terrored yet. Fairy, like, and I mean Walking Wake takes it the best, but like I'm returning with chip damage. Plus I wanted to keep Walking Wake around to outspeed the Pult. So I decide that Screamtail is the one that I would rather take it. And actually, we can run the calc now that I know his sets. So let's get old Himothy Chalamet up there. Because, spoiler alert, I get crit here. And it may not have mattered, seeing that he's modest specs, so Let's see, what did you have? 180, 216, 112. Okay. 180, 216, and 112. Modest. Choice specs. Okay. Okay, so the crit did matter. That unfortunate. Sorry. Spoilers. I swap into Scream. Does. Okay, so there is a 6% chance he actually OHKOs after rocks. He crits me. So it was very upsetting to get crit right there because I didn't even reveal it. My Screamtail actually had Trick Room because I was looking at our teams and my Mons have really good matchups, but they just get outsped. It's like these three in particular. And so I figured if I could pivot around to a late game scenario where I've done good chip, gotten things low, that Trick Room would go crazy. And I mean, with how low his walls, yeah, like if I get Trick Room off here, Himothy dies, I go Brute, something is catching a crunch. This has Toxic, but if I Terra Poison, like, I can't be Toxic. So if I get the Trick Room off, it would have been very interesting because then Cotton Down also works in my favor. So it would have been very interesting to have Brute in the Trick Room with Spore as well. But I got crit, that's the game. Continuing on, I go into my boy Brute, Terra, get the Spore off. Okay. He swaps, expected, but this is where I just make the safe play. Take some Rocky damage. So here comes Great Tusk. And I was trying to decide what to swap into. It was either going to be Azu or Walking Wake. And again, knew nothing about his set at this point. But I figured if I go Wake, I hard outspeed with Scarf, and he's not going to want to stay into a Hydro Steam. So I go Wake. He actually rapid spins. If I wasn't Scarf, this would be terrifying. I dropped the Draco. He lives it, which kind of surprised me. Because I know Great Tusk has pretty poor special defense. But he lives it, and he fires off a Headlong Rush. I live it. So this thing is basically dead. It can't swap into rocks again. But I am a big fan of keeping Death Fodder. It helps late game pivoting. And so I just fire off another Draco here. He lets Eldegoss die. Crit. Didn't matter, but so in comes Gastrodon. And so here I believe I swap into Azu because I figured either a Scald was coming. He hadn't revealed Earth Power at this point. But I knew this thing obviously gets Earth Power. I didn't want to swap my Poison type into it. There's the Earth Power. I play rough, do over half. He gets a Toxic off. And then, so I did 54.5 to it. I'm like, alright, I'm just going to stay in and play rough. Nothing wants to take this. And he lives it on 1 and recovers. And I'm basically getting Toxic stalled. And Azu can still put in work late game. So this is where I swap the Brute. He recovers again. That recovery was pretty obvious, which is why I felt safe swapping to Brute. And so now he's in another tough position. And this is why I didn't feel too threatened early on. Because I had these three very high HP, not paired, in a good spot. And so now he has to make a decision of like, does he risk swapping into a crunch, which Slowking is not going to love if it lives it. Great Tusk is at 15. He has not terrored with Dragapult yet. It is not coming in. It, I believe I calced, died to a Bullet Seed. We can run it. I know he had some HP investment. He probably would have lived, but then it's like a whole mind games thing again. So Bullet Seed Gastro obviously is not living that. Lived on one again after 2. Very weird. There's the Pulti. So he Terras and Dracos. I was calcing it. I do live the Draco because Brute. That was almost a max roll. Brute does have quite good bulk. And so this was the mind games after he Dracos. Does he try to para me, or does he try to attack? And I spent a while thinking about it. I mean, the para is just like, I'm at 3%, it can't swap back in. So like, to me, what made the most sense was attacking. And so, Sucker Punch, the Brute Bonnie, doing what he do. And then I think I calced it. I don't think there's any way I kill with a Sucker against Tusk, but we can look. Let's see, what was his? Did he have anything interesting? He had 104 defense. Yeah, Sucker only did 12 to 14, so there's no way I kill unless I crit. But I get 10 off. Did I miscalc? What is your... Oh, you were Impish. Cool. But I get damage off, and there is a chance that I can win it with Azu, because I'm not banded or anything. And his Galarian Slowking is still asleep. He's had 1 sleep turn. So Azu comes in, Aqua Jet, very obvious. Big crit when it matters. I mean, here comes the game. I have Bulldoze. This was more so for Tinkaton, but it also helps with this. Liquidation did like the same damage. And I could have went Liquidation for the defense drop. It doesn't matter because he gets the second turn, Wake Up, and Sludge Wave, and I'm dead because Walking Wake. So what I could have done differently, obviously hindsight's 20/20, but so after I get this Bulldoze off, or no, he wakes up first turn, never mind. For some reason I thought I got 1 and then it came down to another turn, but I mean that just wouldn't make sense at outspeed. And so that's how game 1 goes. I mean, well played to Josh. It's RNG, like sleep and like para stuff, but like he's got to put himself in the right position anyway. So like, you know, well played. And then we can go to game 2. So I thought there was a chance he would lead Pult again. And I kind of just wanted to apply pressure with Bonnet. But he goes Tink. And here I should have... See, like, this is another misplay. I thought that he would have, like, no speed investment. Where it is. Which he doesn't. But my Brute Bonnie is extra slow because of the potential for Trick Room. And so I was going to Spore him and try to, like, get good positioning. But he outspeeds me, which is... That's just not a risk I should take, especially down a game. I get the Spore off. In comes the Scavalier. Yep, Drill Run. GBA should have just knocked off first. I'm taking, Order Lull. Taking a lot of extra damage for no reason. I predict the Wake Up because, I mean, he was asleep for, 3 or 4 turns. Go back into Bonnie because I figured he wanted to do that. Should have just went ahead and terrored, but did not for some reason. Yep, and now we're just sitting here battling it out. Boop. And unfortunately, because of the para, I don't want to say he's useless because I do have the Trick Room, but he's in a tough spot. So yeah, I assumed the Terror was coming, but yeah, there's the Hex. I could have suckered. It's not gonna do a lot, especially with his set he had. Can I get a blank set? Good lord. He had 212 HP, 252. 252. And he had Hex. And like Draco. What is like attacking moves? Oh, and U-turn. Let's go back. Oh, I was just, why am I, okay, sorry, this is scuffed again, but I was just trying to see how much a sucker would do. 21 to 25. Do I, would the chip have been worth it? I think it would have. Again, hindsight's 20/20, but 21 to 25 puts him within range of an Iron Head since he had Terra'd. And as, oh dude, okay, so this right here is a pretty big sequence of events. I swap into Escaviar. Take the Hex, it's AV, I'm sure he knew that. And so he's fairy, I can live one, I calced that I live all of his attacks that he had shown. And I click Iron Head because I predicted him to stay in, to want to paralyze me. And he does. And he gets the para. And that mattered a lot because, as we'll see, he hexes me here, I live, but I actually get the Iron Head off. And it does 80. So basically this turn, I would have been at 39 instead of 11. And his Dragapult's at 20. And he can't even kill me with a Hex or a Draco. So he's either forced to swap or like sack his Dragapult. So that first para, I mean, you can see my reaction, I was being a baby. That first para was pretty important. But that's the game. I mean, you know, when you run paralysis, you're obviously hoping you get it, otherwise it would suck. So in comes Deoxys Speed to threaten it out. He's still got, I felt less confident about this game because literally all three of his walls were very high HP. And like Dragapult being super low didn't matter a ton because like I either one-shot it with Wake anyway or like Deoxys Speed. So like realistically, this thing's HP doesn't really matter once Brute's dead. And then Great Tusk is kind of scary. So he swaps into Gastro, I believe Ice Beam. Yep, just neutral damage. And so here I show the Energy Ball coverage. Oh, he lives on 9. I'm not sure if that was a roll. Do I even want to know if it was a roll? We can find out. 252. 252, 168. And then what nature you got? Bold. It's defensive, right? Yeah. So it does 73 to 86. How much did I do? No, I don't kill even if I high roll. Okay. Sorry for the detour. So he gets the Toxic off, which honestly I prefer because no para on this thing means it gets to actually do very well. Again, Cotton Down being a pain in the ass. I just go into Bonnet here because this thing is just kind of here to give me a pivot. He actually goes Gastro. I forgot about that turn. Yeah, so again, like I said, I went Bonnet to essentially just sack it, get a pivot, because I thought he was going to Leech Seed. And so here I'm like, okay, like I'm just going to click Crunch. Like it's going to do like 40-something% to this thing. And I mean, even if he goes into something like Great Tusk that resisted, like I'll take the damage because this thing is parried and super low. And he actually goes into his Gastrodon to sack it, and the Crunch, I mean, is gonna kill 15%. I get parried, he gets, yeah, he gets to recover, or he actually goes for Earth Power. He could have recovered. He definitely outsped. So there's the Slowking Galar. I fire off the Wish, and so we talked afterwards, he was predicting me to go into Brute Bonnet, but even though I'm Poison type, like I don't live the Sludge Wave after Rock's damage. So like my only option was to go Deoxys Speed. So go Deoxys. And he actually ends up predicting the Bonnet and Psyshocking. Still does a fuck ton. I get the heal. So now I'm in a pretty decent spot. Two of his walls are easily within kill range. This thing's a pain, but like we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So he actually ends up swapping out. I Shadow Ball because I honestly thought he would stay in because this thing eats damage. But now that I know he specs, it makes sense because he's not doing a ton in return. So he goes Gastro. I'm like, okay, like I have to Ice Beam, get the kill. And toxic damage is racking up. Next one is 25%. So I'm like, okay, I need to reset this thing's toxic damage because I'm getting railed by it. So I go into Brute Bonnie to sack it off. Does just that, and now I get a free swap in. This thing, so here I can't go Azumarill because I died to the Sludge Wave. So I have to go Wake, but Wake really cannot hit this thing very hard. Especially since I'm Scarf and not Specs. I go for Pulse because I wanted more consistent damage. Like, I didn't want to put myself at -2. He Sludge Waves, does a ton. Again, didn't realize he was Specs. Cool, but I get it low enough. And so out comes Chunkachu, and here is where I make the biggest misplay. So I didn't know his set, but I thought he was the typical like Assault Vest. Like Assault Vest Slowking. And so play rough on the most minimum roll. I was like, what? On the most minimum roll kills. Like, and so it did a lot more to Eldegoss as well, which is why I went for it. Because if I go for Liquidation, it comes in, it doesn't take a ton at all. I'm in a tough spot again. But this is where like you just have to make the safe play because he lives the play rough onto because of his defense investment that I didn't know about. And one of my main win cons, I probably win the game if I just Liquidation, in all honesty. So pretty big misplay on my part. Chonkachu dies. Here comes Deoxys Speed. Get the kill. And so here he goes Tusk in front of my Deoxys Speed. I haven't revealed the Psycho Boost yet. So I guess he was just assuming that I didn't bring it, and maybe I just brought Psychic, but I fire off the Psycho Boost, kill Tusk, and then here's where Josh, like, this is really well played by him. So I'm at -2, and he has this in front of me. I have to go Screamtail to take whatever hit. So I fire off the Wish, and I was running the Calcs, and I'm pretty sure if he just Giga Drains again, he kills my Deoxys. But I mean, I said it on stream, like I was doing 10% like with my Dazzling Gleam with this thing to Eldegoss. Like I don't win this battle. And so I swap into Deoxys because it's like the only way I can win. So he Leech Seeds. I get a huge Wish off. I am taking a ton of chip. And so here I fire off an Ice Beam. And let's see. Yeah. The eject button won him the game. And this is where he plays it really well. So obviously he's gonna go for his Hex, but I have to sack off Screamtail. And then here's where he plays it well, because Cotton Down doesn't need to contact, it's just any damage. He sacks off the Eldegoss, gets the slow, and now his Dragapult outspeeds me. So, I mean, well played. That was a really good, super late game play by him. Definitely a tough game. Like, that's a very, like, unique strat I didn't anticipate. Was, like, the Hex with multiple ways of para. Definitely some, like, it's Pokemon, so there's hacks, like that's the game. But man, there were some inopportunely timed ones. But that's not me trying to take anything away from Josh. Obviously, he played well. We just went through the game. He really no big misplays on his part. RNG be RNG, but GG's Josh. We'll see if I can right the ship next week.